Welcome to all of you which have decided to tune in today. Let's see what the simulation has for us. By the way, I saw that 84% of you watching are not actually subscribed, so make sure to keep informed of my latest release by hitting that sub button to save you the hassle of searching up the channel. Now let's dive into some mod videos.
I am feeling very good about Pennsylvania because there are a lot of people in Pennsylvania who deserve to be seen and heard. That's why I'm here in Johnstown, and I will be continuing to travel around the state.
Yeah, something is just so off about this kind of attitude or behavior, whether you are voting for them or not. What do you think it is? Exhaustion or something else? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, so the last clip in today's video covers a debate that again digs into a potential ancient religious event that destroyed two cities. So you know what I'm gonna say. Grab a coffee and a notepad. It's note-taking time.
Have UFOs shaped the narratives of Hollywood, or has Hollywood influenced our perception of UFOs?
Do you know what an ARV is? An alien replica vehicle?
Governments globally have examined UFO sightings, with explanations ranging from secret military operations to otherworldly beings. These objects have been reported for decades, long before the film industry capitalized on the intrigue surrounding them. There's documented evidence that the Air Force, the intelligence community, and the media have conspired to conduct psychological operations to shape public opinion on UFOs. These operations were very effective in creating an environment where pilots do not report their UFO sightings. Scientists and journalists do not engage with the top, and people will laugh at the subject without not research at all.
So my take on this is that Hollywood has tailored our expectations of these entities by creating a narrative that usually depicts these things as an aggressor. I have previously mentioned in other videos the many potential motivations behind staging a false flag alien invasion. Could Hollywood have been part of this plan, going so far back to ensuring conditions on a multi-generational level? You let me know what you think in the comments below.
The Cydonia region, as far as we know, it's hard to verify that there's a pyramid there and a tower and a face. Who built that stuff, or is that stuff even real?
If those things are real, they weren't built by humans. They were built by something else. There was this big story that made all the wires about Harvard University claiming that there's an alien race living on the planet, unbeknownst to us. It seems like we're being conditioned for something. Did you see the film Mission to Mars? That film was actually co-sponsored by NASA. It was clearly that they wanted to put across this whole mythology or alternate history of these giant creatures who lived on the Earth, and there was a cataclysm of some sort, and they came to the Earth and they seeded the Earth with the whole directed panspermia idea. Unfortunately, ancient aliens made all these questions extremely stupid to ask. They kind of poisoned the well for that kind of speculation.
So obviously we have to take these images with a pinch of salt because we cannot independently verify them. Without sending a civilian satellite into space and into Mars's orbit to take pictures ourselves, we really are at the whim of the information we have available to us. And I'm not even sure if we can actually send a satellite into space ourselves. I know a lot of people doubt whether we have even been to space, but you've got to be so careful how you form these opinions. Too often people create a whole world view off the back of a single TikTok video without doing any independent research, testing and observation themselves. The alert of questioning everything is indeed empowering, but we have to stay critical to all perspectives on reality. Let me know what you think about these unusual images allegedly from Mars's surface.
Who come and say something like
The bear.
what man? What man? Up there?
Uh-huh.
I don't eat that.
Mama.
Mama, your mom isn't there. There's no one there.
Mama.
Are you seeing ghosts?
Yes.
Oh, there's a flying tree.
Okay, so when a child starts saying things like this, you gotta wonder if they are telling the truth, especially when they are this young. Could it be a dream that they have had and they cannot differentiate between that and reality? I remember dreaming about things in my room as a child, even in my preteens. It could literally just be that. Alternatively, these parents have coached their children into telling a creepy story or behaving this way. I don't know, but let me know what you think in the comments below.
The Pentagon was already working on these AI censorship superweapons to stop ISIS. This was a technique called natural language processing, which is this ability to basically scan the entire internet, all tweets, all Facebook posts, all YouTube videos, because everything we say on YouTube since 2009 or whatnot has gone into closed captioning at YouTube. So there's a transcript where the AI can read that transcript and it can scan for keywords, pre-crime analysis, whether or not you support or oppose the thing you're talking about. You can only turn your knob up so much on your own propaganda before people go, that hurts my ears. I don't trust this. So this new tool had to be developed to turn down the opposition. So there's no way to create a sort of robust political thought leadership, to spread narratives, to circulate potentially damning or humiliating diplomatic incidents that can be exploited for political purposes. We needed a censorship mechanism at the technological level, and we needed a censorship ecosystem of personnel who could back channel between the tech companies and the blob, the diplomatic defense intelligence apparatus. And so these were both developed effectively in tandem in 2014. The Pentagon was already working on these AI censorship superweapons to stop ISIS. This was a technique called natural language processing, which is this ability to basically scan the entire internet, all tweets, all Facebook posts, all YouTube videos, because everything we say on YouTube since 2009 or whatnot has gone into closed captioning at YouTube. So there's a transcript where the AI can read that transcript and it can scan for keywords, and they can do sentiment analysis to evaluate through essentially AI pre-crime analysis whether or not you support or oppose the thing you're talking about, or whether you're talking about something that's sensitive from NATO's perspective. Some Ukrainian oligarch who's on, CIA payroll does something embarrassing, and Russian YouTube videos or Facebook posts or tweets are amplifying that. Well, that can all be turned down so that nobody knows about the story because the AI is now reading it. They developed that in the counterterrorism space, because if you recall, beginning in 2014 in the US, there was this threat of homegrown ISIS threats that began to be these terrorist attacks, like the Garland attack in Texas, which turned out to have its own quite peculiar elements. But there was this threat that Americans may be being recruited on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter by ISIS propagandists. So we needed a technique to be able to scan the internet for all pro-ISIS phraseology, the terms they use, the prefixes, the suffixes, the slang, the hashtags. And so that began to be coordinated out of something called a newly set up wing of the US State Department, really its first ever formal censorship subdivision. It was called the Global Engagement Center. And I bring this up because it plays into the story later on here. And this was set up by a guy named Rick Stengel, who was the Undersecretary for Public Affairs, bragged that he was Obama's chief propagandist. It's basically the interstitial between state propaganda from the US State Department and the media. And they began to use these technologies to scan and ban ISIS. But then after the Crimea incident, this began to be all sort of Russian propaganda. But then anytime a populist candidate began to win or gain popularity in Europe, they said Marine Le Pen is advantaging Russia with the plank she's running on. She wants to get rid of, the U.S. sanctions on Russian energy, so we can scan and ban for all sentiment that supports Marine Le Pen, as well as any U.S. citizens who amplify, Marine Le Pen in the U.S. and give her political support there. So everyone got caught in the crossfire of this, effectively military complex that was bent on achieving its goals.
Right, so LLMs, or large language models, aren't real artificial intelligence. It's more similar to a search engine like Google, etc., but I'm pretty sure we don't have public access to anything close to true AI yet. I'm not sure we ever really will have access to that, at least not publicly. However, I do think that we need to tread carefully with this technology and not get too ahead of ourselves, because it can be used to exploit weaknesses in software and hardware connected to the internet. As far as the scanning of the internet side of things, that is deeply concerning when you consider the implications implications if a social credit system is introduced. We have seen a form of censorship here in the UK that we have not seen before. What do you think to all of this? Do you think this technology is going to be used for evil, or is it purely to serve us in a positive way? Let me know in the comments below.
Please, for the love of God, stop listening to what they are telling you on the news. They are not giving you any truth. They are just twisting your mind into a giant knot and throwing it in the trash. I literally might be your last chance at finding any sort of truth in this world, other than yourself, of course. And I have nothing against this lovely woman. I'm sure she's just trying to give you truth. But please just watch. Because while she and the rest of the world is trying to tell you that Diddy is involved in Tupac's murder, I'm trying to tell you that Tupac's still alive.
Diddy paid $1 million to have Tupac unalived. Did y'all see this? Watch this.
And we begin with that breaking news at the top of this hour. New court documents show that Dwayne "KPD" Davis accused hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs of paying $1 million for the killing of rap icon Tupac Shakur. According to the court documents, Davis claims Combs paid Eric Von Martin the money. He also says that Combs offered to set up a phone call with Terrence Brown, who was the driver of the car that rolled up next to Shakur and Suge Knight on September 7th, 1996, near the Strip. Davis says that he was telling on himself and not trying to provide evidence against anyone else. He's accused of orchestrating the plot to kill Shakur. A trial date has been set now for some time in November.
Yo, all they wanted to do was get Diddy's foot in the door. Because if this accusation is right, which I think it is, baby, these RICO charges are the least of his problems. This came out July 24th. Where have y'all been? Because I didn't see this and nobody told me about this.
There are maybe 5 people that you watch, including the news and including all the social medias, that are trying to bring you the actual truth and not worried about what happens to them. They're just doing it because they care and they're bringing truth. And I'm one of them. I can tell you for sure, these guys aren't trying to tell you the truth. I can tell you these guys are definitely not trying to tell you the truth. And while I don't think she's trying to deceive you intentionally, I just don't think she's trying very hard to get to the bottom of everything. And the bottom of everything is that this whole thing is a distraction from something else much bigger coming right around the corner. And FYI, Akil the MC, he literally admits to being Tupac. People just don't believe him, so I had to go and prove it to everybody with those birthmarks. But of course, this was just for entertainment purposes. I'm just looking for clicks and views and dollars, because that's all I really care about. Dollars and entertaining you all. I'm not really trying to get the truth out whatsoever. Entertainment only.
Okay, this guy needs to be a bit more humble. That's the first thing I would say, only because he stated he might be the last chance of finding any sort of truth. Pretty outrageous claim considering he provides zero empirical evidence to support his claims. Anyway, I do agree on his point about this all being a distraction. I have said before about the way the celebrity gossip and drama only serves to distract from critical thinking about the state of our world and how it personally affects us. We need to cut through this mud to see what is really going on. And we need to know what is important to us as individuals, not these people who ultimately bear no relevance to our existence. Keep your mind clear and eyes open to the true reality we exist in, not the one we are forced to see. Let me know what you think in the comments below.
Guys, they found the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. An archaeologist found the city of, I think, Sodom. They found these white balls of sulfur all over.
We have sulfur balls. I've got some here on the table. These are actual sulfur balls from Sodom and Gomorrah. They smell like sulfur. They're 99.9% sulfur, and they're burned out, okay?
Well, this is not actually true. Those are not burnt out sulfur balls. When you burn sulfur, it burns like anything else. It combusts and it leaves behind a carbon ash that is non-combustible. So you wouldn't find white sulfur balls if they were burned out. You would find black remnants of sulfur balls.
If you break them open, some are still yellow inside. Most of them are pretty badly burned. Some of them are bigger, like golf ball size, but millions of these sulfur balls are over there, right in that one area. It literally rained burning sulfur.
So the claim being made here by Kent Hovind and Ron Wyatt and other pseudo-archaeologists of the Bible is that because these balls of sulfur exist or in and around the Dead Sea region, that it must be evidence that Sodom was destroyed by sulfur and fire as the Bible says so. But there's a couple problems with this claim. These balls of supposed sulfur are found all around the Dead Sea region, and one might ask, if these were burning balls of sulfur, why are they still white? Well, the answer why we have balls of white sulfur surrounding the Dead Sea is quite obvious, and I'm going to explain scientifically why these exist. The first thing you need to know is that the Dead Sea region is completely surrounded by salt deposits, and these salt deposits have natural bacteria feeding on them that creates sulfur. That's how sulfur is formed. If you just look up the natural formation of sulfur, you will find that it's primarily formed naturally through geological processes, mainly by the action of bacteria on sulfate materials like gypsum in underground deposits, particularly in salt domes, where the bacteria convert the sulfate into sulfide, which then oxidizes to form the element sulfur. Which, of course, is why when people go digging for salt and sulfur, they find it in geological formations like this. This is how sulfur is typically located in the earth, or sometimes on top of the ground. So on top of the salt dome, the salt deposit, you will find sulfur because the bacteria feeds on top of the salt dome, and the byproduct of the bacteria is in fact sulfur. So we should find naturally occurring sulfur all around the salt deposits on the Dead Sea, and in fact we do. We find salt and sulfur deposits all around the Dead Sea. But what about these actual balls of sulfur? Because sulfur doesn't naturally form in balls, it forms in crystals, and those are quite different. Naturally occurring sulfur looks more like a stone, although these images are selected for their appearance. Sulfur, there we go, on the bottom right, looks a little bit more like that in real life. So what's happening with these white balls of sulfur? How do we go from sulfur crystals to white balls of sulfur? Now, as it happens, sulfur can be melted, and the melting point is not even that high. It's about 235 degrees Fahrenheit or 112 degrees Celsius. So was there any event in and around the Dead Sea region in which sulfur could have been melted but not burned? And the answer is a big resounding yes. Just north of the Dead Sea, in a location called Tel El Hammam, in the 1600s BCE, there was an air blast that was a result of a meteor burning up in the atmosphere, and the air blast made landfall. The air blast, which was just north of the Dead Sea region, destroyed the entire area that it came into contact with, melting nearly everything in the vicinity. We've got melted iron and other melted metals that were located in the vicinity that were strewn about, miles and miles of shrapnel. And we've got other melted items, like this is silica that's melted, and we've got dozens and dozens of other minerals that were literally melted but not burned up. And of course, the melting point of silica is roughly 1500 degrees Celsius. So the impact here, if it could melt the silica, obviously is melting sulfur, and it's going to create these sulfur balls. So everywhere within this region, we should find melted sulfur balls from this blast. This blast should have melted the sulfur easily, and then when the impact happened, it should have thrown the shrapnel from the impact all over the region. And that's exactly what we find. So these little white balls that people are picking up in the region and just claiming that it's evidence of Sodom and Gomorrah being destroyed by flaming sulfur and brimstone is nonsense, because you wouldn't expect to find superheated melted balls of sulfur. You would find the already burnt balls of sulfur, which wouldn't look like sulfur at all. It would just look like the remnants of something that was burned up and left whatever the ashy carbon deposit was afterwards.
So hot that it took the bricks of the city and baked it into ash.
Now this is where Kent is either being dishonest or just straight ignorant, because Masada, the fortress and the city that was destroyed and razed to the ground, was done so around 72 CE. It was one of the final strongholds against the Roman government by the people of Israel. And so no, any destruction layer that is found here has nothing to do with the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, because they're separated by about 2,000 years.
These sulfur balls specimens were tested by Michael Bonilla, a friend of mine up in New York. He said they were 97.4% pure sulfur when he had them tested. No place else in the world has these phenomena.
And of course, this claim isn't true either. For example, if you go over to the east, like in Taiwan, they've got sulfur balls that are formed because of the heat from thermal vents. This is an article you can find on that. The origin of native sulfur ball from the Kuishishanto hydrothermal field offshore northeast Taiwan. So yeah, sulfur balls are not unique to this one specific region of the world, and we know how sulfur balls form. So in conclusion, of course, the presence of sulfur and sulfur balls all around the Dead Sea region is in no way evidence that the biblical story of Sodom and Gomorrah is true.
So as it so happens, I have actually heard these claims before about the balls of sulfur, and I found it pretty compelling when I first came across it, even if it did contradict my view at the time. This individual's breakdown does make sense and can be proven, so I will admit that I am now back to my previous outlook before I heard the Sodom and Gomorrah nuclear war theory. I will be honest, my first thought when hearing the theory originally was it could have been a meteor strike. Either way, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Divine intervention or a natural disaster? Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do not hesitate to drop a like on the video and sub for my future releases that come out daily, every day of the week. For now though, stay well, stay safe, and stay curious. Until next time.